Welcome to the Keeping It Israel podcast with Jeff Feuders, where Jeff and his guests talk everything Israel as it relates to Christian faith and the church. If you are a Christian and you stand with Israel, you will be encouraged and challenged by this podcast. And if you're not so sure about the whole Israel thing, you need to learn how your faith connects with Israel and why standing with Israel matters. Now here's Jeff with today's guest.
Thanks for tuning in to the podcast today. My name is Jeff, and I'll be your host. I'm also the executive director of First Century Foundations, a ministry that is helping over 70 Christian and Messianic ministries in the land of Israel. My guest today is Sherri Barna. Sherri is an entrepreneur, a young business owner, and also the person who handles all of the social media for us at First Century Foundations. And Sherri and I had a conversation a little while back in the city of Jerusalem, pre-COVID-19, of course, and I just wanted to share with you our conversation so that you'd get a little bit of a perspective of a 34-year-old young lady who is passionate about Jesus, first of all, but also passionate about the land of Israel and about the history that we see there. And so let's listen in on our conversation together. Okay, well, I'm here today with Sherri Barna. Sherri, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
And we've known each other just for a little while.
Yep.
But tell us a little bit about who is Sherri Barna? I mean, really.
Tricky question.
Give it your best shot.
Yeah, this is an awkward question. I have a social media business called Purple Bean Media, and I'm 34 years old. I've got a husband and kids, 3 kids, and that's about it. Love traveling, love music, love what? All right.
Now, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you on the podcast is you used to work for an Israel-based ministry, of which we are as well, First Century Foundations.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you transitioned from that to your own social media company and why.
Okay, so I started working there. I was offered a job, just data entry. Mm-hmm. So worked kind of my way through the company, and then once social media kind of blew up, I think it was around 2012,
right.
They said, we really need someone doing this for us. So I said, I really, really want this job because it's something I have been doing for myself and it's something I love. And I think it's an area that I really, really enjoy. So I ended up getting that job, and I worked doing that as the director of social media for 5 years. And then I just started branching off because people were approaching me. Right. And then I made the official cut in 2018 in the summer, and it's been taken off since. So
Great. Well, one of the reasons I think that we were interested in working together with you was not only that you were good at doing the social media stuff, but also that you have some history with Israel and understand a little bit about the situation here in Israel and about ministry in Israel.
Yeah.
And so now, First Century FCF is one of your clients.
Yep.
And you have been doing an excellent job for us, by the way. Just want to mention that. Shout out for Purple Bean Media. And, if you need somebody good to do your social media, contact Sherri. We'll probably put her information at the end of the podcast here somewhere so that you can find her, purplebeanmedia.com. So let me ask you this. You obviously are a supporter of Israel.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Just as a Christian, I think we are called to stand with them. We have, a lot of people don't realize this, but we have Jewish roots, and our Messiah is a Jew. Yeah. And our history, even this time being with you guys through Israel, we're seeing these major sites that are in Israel, where Hebron, where the patriarchs are buried, and it's the first piece of land that Abraham bought, moving through to the kings, and through the prophets, and then through Jesus' ministry. And of course, we know the apostles went out from Israel. But it's just such a key component of anyone's faith. The fact that some Christians don't stand with Israel, it blows my mind because we have a Jewish Messiah. Israel is mentioned in the Bible. It's a huge theme in the Bible.
Right.
And it's a major component that I think is super important. And I believe we as Christians are called to pray for the Jews, to support them. And I love Israel. I love the people of Israel. And it's a cornerstone of my faith. So
it's a great answer. Now, so you talked a lot there about sort of the history and why, as believers in Jesus, our connection to the Jewish people is a historical one. Jesus was and is our Jewish Messiah. What about the sort of the future component? What about God's plans for Israel long term and how we can engage with that?
Yeah, like, are you speaking more prophecy-wise?
Yeah, and what we believe, I believe we both believe this, will happen in the future as it concerns ethnic Israel.
Okay, yeah, like the fulfillment of the Jews, basically. Like, I think there's going to be a spiritual awakening. I think they will see Jesus as their Messiah. Yeah, it's clear for us in the scriptures, like when we're reading Isaiah and like Ezekiel, all these old prophets, we can see, wow, that's Jesus. That points to Jesus. We have the scriptures that say, your Messiah, he's going to come in on a donkey in Zechariah. He's going to be born in Bethlehem. These major prophecies, which were fulfilled in Christ. Mm-hmm. And I think it's amazing to see, as a Christian, these things happening. But I do know there's a blindness, spiritual blindness, and the Bible speaks of that. So I think one day the lights will go on. I believe wholeheartedly he's returning. And when he returns, he's putting his feet in Jerusalem. And I think there's going to be a spiritual restoration. I think the Bible speaks very clearly of that. And so it's a huge part of the future. And just prophetically speaking, and just like looking around, Israel is such a tiny, tiny nation. And it really is the center of the world. Jerusalem's a tiny, tiny city. And it's constantly on TV, constantly being fought over. It doesn't make sense. That's why I believe it's a spiritual thing. So
yeah. Hey, listen, I'm supposed to be the preacher, but you just did a very good job right there, and that's a great answer. We do believe that Paul's words that one day all Israel will be saved will come true. We don't exactly know. I don't believe how that's going to happen, but I agree with you. I believe that a spiritual awakening is coming. Yeah, I believe that because of what Paul intimated in Romans chapter 11, that awakening will begin here in the land of Israel and spread to the entire world. I don't think it's just about the Jewish people. I think that will be the fulfillment of God's Spirit being poured out on all flesh, as it says in Joel chapter 2. We talk a lot about that prophecy, maybe being fulfilled in Acts 2, but really it wasn't. It wasn't. The Spirit wasn't poured out on all flesh in Acts chapter 2. The Spirit was poured out. The beginning was then. Yeah. But I really do believe that prophetically that prophecy will be fulfilled when this great awakening really actually happens. Yeah.
And I believe we're in the beginning of the Great Awakening, because if you look at the global south, the gospel is growing in crazy, crazy ways. In the West, and we always think like the world's all about us. Right. And people are like, Christianity's dying in the West because we see like a spiritual like numbness happening. But if you look at the rest of the world, China has, I don't know, I think it's like 3 million believers or something that they can count. So I'm assuming it's more because obviously they have to be underground. We have South America. The gospel's exploding everywhere. Amen. So
it's good. Well, so obviously you care about Israel. You've told us kind of why you care. There's a connection historically. There's a connection for the future as well, as we've just been talking about. Why do you think other people should care? I mean, we come across Christians all the time, even pastors who, they wouldn't say they don't care about Israel, but they really don't give it a whole lot of thought. They're, in a lot of cases, apathetic towards Israel, towards the Jewish people. They don't really see how it connects. Why should they care?
I think they need to care because, first of all, I do believe it's a calling on Christians' lives. I think, like I said earlier, the emphasis, our history is within it and we came out of it. So I think we should, just like I know, like my family's, I'm half Portuguese, so we celebrate that cultural part of us with our little Portuguese ways. And I think spiritually, we need to do the same thing. And I think there's just a lot of apathy because people are very confused. Like we know in the news, it's always there. It's very confusing. There's obviously, it's a hotbed of political, issues. And basically I just think until you sit down and actually think about it, you won't think about it.
Yeah, so that's very true.
Like I think sometimes when people are like, oh, you're going to Israel again? Why again? And then I say, oh, well, you believe in the Bible, you're Christians, let's have a conversation. And then they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Right. But when the pastors aren't preaching it, it's just, it doesn't go anywhere, so.
Yeah, I heard something very profound a number of years ago. Somebody said to me, you always have to remember that you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And until you're either faced with it or questioned about it, then you begin to investigate, and you can learn new things, which maybe your mind wasn't closed off to before, but you just had never considered.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's people in both camps. Their minds are closed to it.
Yeah.
The political scene here kind of is very controversial and polarizing for people. But then there's others who just haven't really considered it or given it much thought. That's great. And I think you're right. I think other people should care because, first of all, the Jewish people, they're our brothers, they're our sisters. We are family with them, not the other way around.
Exactly,
right?
the roots, and we're the
they
branches.
Were first. And so, the Bible says that Jesus came to his own received them not. Just because that happened, doesn't mean that God's forever closed off to the Israeli people. They are his chosen people. There's nowhere in Scripture where it says that, God's gone back on his promise. Although we know that lots of people believe in replacement theology. And I just don't think that's the case. So that's great. Now, you've been to Israel a number of times. You travel here. You're here working with us these couple of weeks, helping with filming and helping with our social media stuff. Thanks for doing that, by the way. But what is it that you like about coming here?
So I live in Canada, and we don't have a huge history there. We're just so young. We're only a couple of 100 years old. Here, you're walking, and it's like eras on top of eras on top of eras. We have the Abraham, and like, how old is that? Like 4,000 years. And then we have the Roman era, the Byzantines and stuff like that. It's just everywhere you look, it's history. Like one time, the first time I came, we were just walking down the street, and they're like, "Do you know what that street is?" I'm like, "No, that's the Cardo. That's like the street that would run, what was it, east to west or north? East to west. And it had like the pillars and everything. And I'm like, man, you're just walking down the street and you come into contact with these like crazy old historic and biblical a lot of times things. And that's what I really, really love about it. As much as I love Tel Aviv, it's such a beautiful city and fun. Jerusalem is something special, and Samaria is amazing. All these areas, like, it's just anywhere you look, there's so much history.
Well, Israel has it all, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's got the ancient, it's got the old, it's got the modern and the new, and it really is a vibrant place as well. I mean, if you've never been here, there's great nightlife here. There's excellent sort of European feel down here on Jaffa Street, where outdoor cafes and all kinds of very, very enjoyable things that people could come and be a part of. And yet a lot of people won't travel here because they've got this mental block when it comes to especially Israel and Jerusalem.
Yeah, anytime I'm like, I'm going to Israel, people are like, aren't you so scared? I'm like, you know what? I actually feel very safe there. There's other places in the world I would not travel. Israel is, and that people travel to all the time. And Israel to me is very safe. And the other thing I love about it is, so the first time I went, it was hard to process everything when you're here. Like it really does take time because you're learning so much. Just going home and reading the Bible, I'm like, oh man, like the Sea of Galilee, like I see it now in my head. And all the felt board things are so accurate, like from Sunday school in the 80s, we had the felt board things.
They used actual maps.
Oh, probably. But it was just shocking because my kids the other day had it. And I was like, that's actually what it looks like, guys. Like, for real. But it's really cool. It's like the Bible really, it's a line everyone uses, but the Bible really does come to life. And it's very neat.
Speaking of maps, we were at a place, was it yesterday or the day before, where the guide talked about the fact that Joshua sent out people to actually map Israel the very first time around. I think that was from Shiloh or Shiloh, as we say in English. And it's kind of a cool connection to make.
I thought that was neat too, yeah.
So you've been here a number of times. Put you on the spot. What's your absolute number one favorite place or site in Israel?
I love the Old City. I really like walking around it, and it's safe, as we know. And I just love, it's just so old and historic, and there's so much, and there's a lot of life to it too, which is kind of cool. Yep. And I also do love Tel Aviv. Like, I love the vibe. I love the modern. I love the cafes and the restaurants, and the food's so delicious, and I love the water. So
the old city, meaning the city of Jerusalem. The old city of Jerusalem. Yeah. And then, so you like the old and the new. You're kind of a little schizophrenic.
You know what? Honestly, that's what I tell everyone. I'm like, it's perfect for every person. Because if you're into the history, if you're into archaeology, boom, you got it. If you want new, if you want fun, if you want nightlife, it's here too. They have like water, they have mountains if you want to ski in certain times of the year. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, actually right now there's still snow on Mount Hermon. You can go far to the north and be part of that scene at the ski resort, or you can go all the way to south to Eilat, and I would imagine it's swimming weather now. So it really is an amazing country and very small. I mean, it's very compact. You can drive one end to the other in something like 7 or 8 hours.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of California. Like you have the mountains, you have the beach.
Right.
And it's similar.
Very cool. Okay, so a couple last things and then probably we'll sign off here. But you're young. You said you're 34.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of young people back home in North America really are either uninformed about Israel.
Yeah.
They've been, influenced greatly by media. So how do you think that we can most effectively change young people's attitudes toward Israel? What's the best way for us to do that?
I think the tours are just amazing, because I think once they're here and they step foot and they meet the people and see it for their own eyes, I think that's life-changing. I think programs like what you have and what you offer is really important for the people who can't make it over. Basically, and one-on-one, it doesn't reach the masses, but one-on-one conversations, just having a non-emotional conversation, just saying, here's biblically, let's lay this out, and just having those conversations. A lot of people don't know, so having the conversations often is eye-opening. That doesn't reach the masses because it's very one-on-one. But I think social media obviously is important, because that's what I do. But I think the tours are what I think. It's just important to be here. I tell everyone to come. So
good for you. Thank you. I think it's very important too. And as you know, the demographic that we typically reach with things like our ministry, like First Century Foundations and the TV show and our newsletters and so on, that demographic tends to be, I want to say my age and older, but probably even a little older than me in a lot of cases. Yeah. And we somehow have to figure out a way to connect with that younger generation. And that's one of the reasons why we've brought you on and contracted you to help us with our social media. Yeah. But I think too, we're developing a program where Bible college students from Canada can come subsidized to Israel on a trip where, they will have to pay a certain amount, but it'll be a program through the school where they'll get credit for their experience. It'll be like a course credit, and then we will subsidize from
that.
Donations.
To me is a genius idea, because honestly, if you can get the pastors to turn their hearts towards Israel, they will reach their congregation, and that kind of experience, it stays with a person. So they'll be able to preach from their pulpits for the next 40, 50 years, however long they're preaching for. And we know the pulpit drives the church. So if they're passionate about Israel, if they think it's important, then the people will hear it and learn it. Yeah,
well, and that's kind of our long-term gamble. I mean, we really felt like we've got to reach this younger generation, and if we don't figure out a way to connect with young people, then in 10 or 15 years, it's going to be really difficult to raise enough money to help the ministries here in Israel. Yeah. And
the young people, it is an investment, because especially when you're 25, 30, you're starting your family, you just don't have disposable income to be doing these crazy things. Yeah. But if you can invest in them, I think long term it will very much pay off. And but you have to be willing to take the short term hit. Young people love experience. They love to know where their money is going. So gone are the days, my parents would just write a check and send it off. I know sometimes at my other ministry, it would just be an envelope filled with cash from an older woman who didn't know how to donate online. Those days aren't here anymore. We want to know, we want transparency. Where's the money going? Who is it helping? Why should I? Are you living high off the hog? Is that the person? Is that the actual kid I helped? And that's why compassion and those kind of things are saying people, come to Mexico, come to Guatemala, see the lives you're changing, because once they see it, they're sold out for life, because when you see it, you believe it. Yeah. So
fantastic. Well, I want to say thanks for being
You're
part
welcome.
of the podcast. Yeah. I know that you're kind of stuck here with us this week, but you did agree to do this, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for tuning in. It's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for joining us for the podcast today. And just a little shout out to Sherri and Purple Bean Media. If you're looking for somebody to help you with social media, especially if you are ministry-based, Sherri would be an excellent choice. And you can find out more about her and her business at purplebeanmedia.com. purplebeanmedia.com, and I know she'd love to hear from you. We are so grateful that you listen in week after week, and if you'd like to help ministries in the land of Israel, we work, as I mentioned, with over 70 there, and you can help us and find out more about those ministries at our website, firstcenturyfoundations.com, firstcenturyfoundations.com. And if you'd like to donate and make a gift, you can do that again at the website by clicking the donate button or going directly to firstcenturyfoundations.com/donate. Thanks so much for listening in. And remember, as Christians, we stand with Israel.